Here's that black dog from the last clip and a husky coming in the park a little stiff, but it's probably because his owner brought him in on leash. And once he let him off leash, he ran around and played really well for the rest of the day. And then there is a gentleman who brought his muzzled pit bull Amstaffy thing, Pibble, and a small little black fluffy Havanese thing in together. And this is a female Pibble, I'll say for the purposes of this, is muzzled. She has a fabric muzzle on. It's a little loose, so she can't bite anybody, but she can drink and stuff. But it doesn't seem to let her have full range of panting. I'll let you guys watch her for a second, and mostly what she's doing, if you can't see, is she runs real fast and real intensely at dogs. She kind of targets a dog, and then monster truck rally slams that dog in the shoulder area while she's running and vocalizes. So she like hits him and goes "rawr," and she kind of picks a target, and you can see her pick a target, and then usually goes after that target. And she mainly goes after the kind of goofier, high energy players that were a little awkward that we were seeing earlier. Although she just, as she's zooming around and creating a whirlwind of attention for herself, more dogs participate and she goes after those. She doesn't ever go after a smaller dog though, or a dog that's not doing anything. So there's her doing her thing. She's picked that black dog. She zooms after him. He juked her at the last minute so she couldn't get it in, but she catches up to him as he's coming around the bend here. He slams him there, and then he makes a turn, and you can see her coming up, and there she goes again, slam, and vocalizes there. So now my friend's dog, who doesn't have his full repertoire of language ability to read other dogs, has noticed this female Pibble is really high energy and zooming around, so he's decided maybe he's interested in her, and he wants to get her to interact, so he starts barking at her.
She's young. Yeah. She's grown since last time I saw her.
So here he's barking at her, and he wants her attention, and he gets it, so she becomes his next target. So she turns around, goes after him, and does the shoulder monster truck slam and vocalize and scares him a little. You can see him drop his tail. He dropped his tail there and ears and was like, whoa, not exactly what I was expecting. And then as he follows her around here, he's a little bit more tender about getting her attention than he was before. She turns there and he's like, I don't know if I want that. That last experience with you was a little rough. But being a young dog, he goes right back for it because he's not really sure what to make of her. So she goes back to her body slamming antics, manages to catch that black dog and pin him for a second. So then both of the male dogs that she's hanging out with are trying to get some humps in when she holds still, because she mostly zips around and body slams dogs or holds still for a second long enough to get a hump in. When I first saw this guy come in with this Pibble, I definitely heard a little bit of macho man echoing in my head for a second. And then I got questions from my friend and just in general about why was he there? Why was the dog muzzled? What did I think of the dog? So here is my 2 cents from my intuition of working with dogs for a while and also trying to take everyone's perspective into account. There's nothing really to indicate that this Pibble is playing. She doesn't play bow or do anything cutesy. She doesn't really introduce herself to other dogs. She just turns and picks a dog, runs after it as fast as she can, and then body slams it in its side and growls and vocalizes. And none of that I would constitute as playing. She seems to do just fine with her housemate, which is a much smaller dog who did kind of pester her continuously while she was there, and she didn't mind that. So my guess is that she can get along with certain dogs that she likes, her housemates or dog friends when she's familiar with them. She just doesn't perform at her best in an environment like a dog park where there are a bunch of dogs running around. So if I had to guess what the owner is doing here, she probably does put her mouth on dogs and he muzzled her so that she couldn't grab onto other dogs. But she probably gasses out really fast when she's here. And so this is his way of getting her some exercise and sort of, you could potentially see it as at the expense of the other dogs that she's pummeling. But between her wearing that muzzle that kind of restricts her breathing, her being a kind of a heavier bodied dog, and maybe not like in perfect shape, she did look like she might have a little bit loose elbows, which could contribute to her not wanting to run around as much. So she's probably pretty gassed out after this. Also, I would say that even though she is expending energy, she isn't really learning to play. So I don't see any play skill development here. What she is doing is learning to run after dogs and pummel them and get her yahoos out, which is probably what she did before she was muzzled, and is probably why she's muzzled and why she doesn't do so well at the dog park, is because she just wants to expend energy and she finds it more fun to expend energy pummeling dogs than to learn play skills. And at this point with the muzzle and everything, she seems to find this a little bit stressful, which might wear her out even faster, which the owner probably isn't aware of all this, but thinks is cool. He was only there for about 5 minutes. I pretty much caught the whole thing on film, and then she was tired and panting, drank a bunch of water, and he left with his dogs. There's also the possibility that he's been told to do this by a trainer or someone who says they have a bunch of dogs and knows about dogs, or he watches this on some TV show. And also that she is less reactive to dogs on leash or in an in other circumstances with this happening regularly, either because it gives her exercise and kind of wears her out, or she just has her chance to be like kind of flooded with stimulation from other dogs and is less interested in dogs outside of that. It could also make her more reactive, but my guess, because the guy seemed pretty chill and the people there said that they came pretty regularly, that that opportunity to pummel some dogs and burn some yahoos might make her actually more manageable for this guy just in general. And then you can see this as a bad thing, like, oh, all these dogs are practicing weird behaviors together with this kind of weird dog in the mix. But if you watch my friend's dog, it gives him an opportunity, if you're looking on the bright side, to learn about weird dogs. So he's a young dog, and he's got to learn that he's going to meet weird dogs that he has trouble reading, that don't respond like he expected, that he can't quite figure out what they're doing, and that are mean. And this is sort of a safe way for him to learn about weirdos, provided that he doesn't get, like, he could get in the habit of spending, repeatedly trying to hump this dog or pester this dog, which would be building bad habits. But in a small dose where he's like, oh, I wasn't sure what this dog was about. I tried to get her to play and she let me have it, and that was a little too much. And I learned that she is weird and dogs that have this body language are weird, and I should probably just mind my own business. And if he learns that from it, and if we can most facilitate that kind of an experience, then it could be a learning experience for some of these dogs, just about weird dogs and that they're best left alone.